Hello and welcome to MK Unpacked. I am your host, Claire Feniger, and I am joined by fellow MK Brennan Davis. Brennan, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you've been, and where you're going.
As you said, my name is Brennan Davis. I'm from Kenya. That's where I was born and grown up there my whole life, excluding a few odd years back here in the U.S. Who I am, I just love the outdoors. I love Jesus, which is
always a good thing.
The most defining feature, the greatest thing. I love Africa. I love the people there. Where I'm going, currently I'm at Spring Arbor University. I'm a freshman. I'm studying math education, although I'm also considering ministry as maybe adding a minor or trying to figure that out right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's been really great to get to know you because like 2 weeks ago, I didn't even know who you were. So being connected through SAU has been really cool.
For sure.
So tell us a little bit about your family, the mission work they've done, and maybe explain a little bit about what it can look like for some missionaries to go and support other missionaries, to be teaching other missionaries, and just a little bit about the generational call on your family as well.
For sure. Yeah, so my family is not the typical missionary family that you might think about. My parents work at a school for missionary kids called Rift Valley Academy. It's a boarding school. It's got 400 to 500 students, K through 12. It's an American curriculum. There's about 120 staff members, and it is primarily for missionary kids. So there's lots of families all over Africa in very often remote places, or they don't have access to good schooling. And so they send their kids to Rift Valley Academy, RVA, to give them a good quality education and also be able to focus on their ministry. So my dad teaches various sciences like biology, environmental science, conceptual physics, and he also teaches the national language, Kiswahili. And he coaches soccer, rugby, well, I should call it football, but I'm becoming too American. And my mom initially came for special education. She was actually really called to the mission field because she wondered about what do missionaries do when their kid has special needs, has these disabilities. They're basically disabled, but if they were able to send their kids to Rift Valley Academy and there was a teacher like my mom who was able to help them out, then maybe they could continue their ministry. So my mom does that, teaches piano lessons, helps planning events for the weekend for the students. My dad likes to describe the school as a summer camp and school combined all year. There's just activities on the weekend, but you also have your classes, and everyone's on the same campus. Everyone's doing all the same stuff. It's very close-knit.
That's awesome. Your family's doing a lot of really cool things. Tell us a little bit about how your family ended up in Kenya, and then also do you have siblings, anything like that?
For sure. So my family has been in Kenya for a very long time, since maybe 1913, something like that. The school was started in 1906. But yeah, my great-great-grandpa, I think, I lose track of the grades sometimes, but my great-great-grandpa came out to Kenya during that time and started a hospital with his wife, and then he had some sons, and they ended up staying, and those sons ended up having sons, and all the way down to my dad, and now me. I think I'm the 5th or 6th generation there in Kenya. So yeah, very long generational calling, as you said. My mom and my dad met in Kenya, very, very crazily. He was not supposed to be there, but there's some paperwork that wasn't going through because it's Kenya, so this happens all the time. And so he was staying and working at a resort on the coast, and my mom was coming out on a short-term mission trip. And my mom's uncle loved bird watching. Well, my dad had gotten a master's in ornithology, and growing up in Kenya his whole life, he loved birds, and he knew all about them. Somehow, they figured out about my dad, and then my mom and my dad ended up meeting, and then later they got married, and yeah, it's just like a perfect love story.
That's crazy.
Yeah, their meeting was quite crazy. Definitely God-given, God ordained and set up. So yeah, just very, very interesting how my family's been there.
Yeah.
As for my siblings, I have 2 younger brothers. Lincoln is in 10th grade and Caden is in 7th grade. They're both at Mattawan Public School right now in Kalamazoo. So they'll be there till August, and then they'll head back with my family, and I'll stay here at Spring Arbor.
Very good. And then tell us a little bit about Kenya as they're going back. What are they going to be going back to? What does it look like?
For sure.
Anything. Paint the picture for us.
Yeah. I think the two biggest things that stand out to me are the people and like the nature, just the wildlife. The people are just so generous, super kind, very happy, I would say. There's very much an expectation of, greeting is very important in Kenyan culture. So if you see anyone, you have to stop, you have to greet them, and you have to talk to them for at least 5 or 10 minutes. Ask them about their family, ask them about the cows, ask them about their crops, and you have to have this interaction. It's just expected. And it's very different from the U.S., where you can just keep your head down and walk past each other. So I love that aspect. Just the people, very generous. If you ever go over to someone's house, or I don't know if you wouldn't call it a house a lot of the times, but ramshackle hut or whatever it is with the tin roof on top, the corrugated tin, which is called mabati. They are often very poor, but they will give you everything they have. They'll make sure that you sit down and are given a full meal, and you have to be careful not to finish your plate, because if you ever finish your plate,
they'll give you more.
They're going to put more on. So they're always going to try and give you more, and even though they don't really have very much, so just very generous. The wildlife is, of course, incredible. Kenya is known for its tourism industry, and there's just a lot of diversity. You have, mountains up to 14,000. Mount Kenya is 18,000 feet. Then you have desert, more arid climate. You have the coast of Kenya along, the Indian Ocean. So just very diverse. I'm at 7,000 feet on the edge of the Great Rift Valley. So that stretches all the way up from like above Egypt all the way down to Mozambique. And the valley floor is about 6,000 feet. And my view from my porch, I can step out my front door, and there's the football pitch. And then below that, 6,000 feet, 1,000 feet below, there's 2 volcanoes right in front of me.
Insane.
So one of them is a shield volcano. It's much bigger because the lava was more felsic. It all spread out. The other one is up to 9,000 feet. And so you can hike that one and go around the rim. It takes about 2 to 3 hours. And you can camp there, and there's buffalo everywhere. There's zebra, giraffe, your typical, Kenyan or East African wildlife. So, yeah, the wildlife, of course, is insane. Masai Mara being very famous as well for tourism, but there's also a lot of other national parks. Nairobi National Park is the biggest national park inside a city, possibly in the world, at least, I think, in Africa. But, yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, very cool. And then what is your favorite thing about living in Kenya, and why has it become home to you?
Favorite thing would probably be again, between the nature and the people, but definitely wildlife. Just being able to sneak out of campus whenever I want and just go hike in the forest and go camp, go hike, make chai, and just, build forts, enjoy the wildlife, bring my friends out there, go in the hot springs and the streams. Just the view is incredible, of course. So, I think my dad did a very good job. I mean, he loves nature himself, but he did a very good job of showing me, how to connect to God through that. And he connects really well to God through nature, and I do as well. Often for church, we would end up skipping and just go on a family hike. And it was just, it was really good because we were able to connect as family and also just see God's incredible, unbelievable creation, and just shows so many of his own attributes and his design and his care and his organization. And just ingenious.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then your other question was, why is it home?
Yeah.
I'd say the easy answer is, I lived there most of my life, so
for sure.
Typically that's what makes it home, but I think it is mostly the people, not only the Kenyan people, but also the people on campus. Rift Valley Academy is a super cool place, but what makes it a super cool place is the people who have left often very lucrative positions in the U.S. or whatever their jobs are, and they've come to serve students, and they've come to serve for something greater, a greater mission. You don't get paid to go to RVA. You don't get paid at all. You're teaching all the time, and you're helping on the weekends, and you have to raise your own sport. So the people that want there really want to be there, and they're doing it because they have a servant heart. And so it just really makes an awesome, close-knit community, and the students are, I think, really well supported in that.
That's really awesome. Share with us a bit about your travel adventures and how they've helped you experience the culture and then meet people outside of your academy. You shared a little bit about the people and how they live. But can you explain the border phrase and then just like where you've been
Sure.
outside of your campus?
Yeah, I'll start with the border phrase because I'm sure people are wondering what that is. Basically, hopefully I get this right, but between Tanzania and Kenya, there's about a 1 kilometer distance between the borders themselves. And so, of course, that gave people a job to ferry people in between those two locations. And so there's these, we call them, the Swahili word for it is piki. Some people say picky, but it should be the I is E, so piki is motorcycle. And so these motorcycles would ferry people, taxi people in between these two locations from border to border. And over time, it became, because of the Kenyan accent, boda to boda, 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 boda. So now those motorcycles are called boda bodas. So, because, most people in Kenya don't even know that now. I feel like that, it was a long time ago, border to border, and then it just becomes boda to boda, boda, boda. So anyways, I know you found that very interesting. So there you go. Let's see. What else did you ask about?
Well, now I have to ask, have you driven a motorcycle?
I have not.
Okay.
My mom is like very strict on such things.
That's fair.
My dad grew up like doing motorcycle safaris in Kenya and all this stuff. I think my aunt had like an accident one time, my dad's sister, because of course she was doing a bunch of motorcycle stuff too. And yeah, my mom is generally more strict just on things in life, which it's fine. My dad is more lax.
You need that balance,
though. It's a good balance. Yeah, I'm grateful for it most of the time. So yeah.
And then just have you traveled anywhere other than your campus?
Yeah, so we've done quite a bit of traveling as a family in Kenya. We try to go once a year to northern Kenya, where my dad grew up. It's called Pokot. And yeah, that's where my grandparents on my dad's side worked since like 1970, and then they recently retired at the age of like 81. Wow. They didn't really want to retire, but they did. So now they're at Media in Florida, the AIM, because that's the mission that my parents work with, Africa Inland Mission. They're at the AIM retirement place. So yeah, traveled relatively extensively within Kenya, gone to the coast maybe every year or so, to the Indian Ocean. That is a blast every time. The weather is just absolutely amazing. You go snorkeling. My dad would go scuba diving. We've gone deep sea fishing there, caught some marlin, and what else did we catch? Swordfish, sailfish, just like absolute beauties. So that's always a lot of fun. We've traveled to various lakes, and another personal favorite of mine is the Aberdares. That's a mountain range above us that gets up to 14,000 feet. So it doesn't quite snow up there, but it gets cold enough where it could. And yeah, that is just like a otherworldly place, because if you were to transplant someone into that location where they have 30 feet of bamboo above them and they have giant heather all around them and gorgeous waterfalls and caves, you'd be like, this cannot be Kenya, this arid place. But it is. And so there's elephant, there's buffalo, there used to be lions up there, there's leopard, there's giant forest hog, which get up to like 500 pounds, just these like boars.
That's wild.
They're crazy. So the wildlife up there, rhinos, it's insane. Yeah, you can go fishing for trout up there. That's our favorite thing. We go up there and we camp for 1 or 2 nights and we catch a bunch of trout and cook them up on the fire. So.
Okay, now that you're saying all of this, I want you to share your near-death experience
Wow.
camping.
I don't know if I'd call it that, but
It sounded like it when you told me, but whatever it was, share with us
yes.
your camping story.
So again, we were in the Aberdares, that mountain range, and it was just my family. And we left in the morning we had our campsite in this one location. We went down to the river, and we followed the river down like maybe a mile and a half. Now there's no trails except what the animals make, the buffalo make, and usually you don't want to walk on those trails because they're just like holes where the elephant have stepped, and they're sort of hard to walk in. Very muddy. It's all very, very marshy. It's all very, very wet. And the grass is like maybe 4 or 5 feet tall, and just like they're just like solid chunks of grass. So you sort of have to either weave your way in between them or try and step on top of them and not fall off. Those are your two methods of walking through that grass. You don't really have any other options. So not super easy terrain, but eventually we got down there, a mile and a half down the river, and it was amazing. Like there are other people that fish there sometimes. I don't think people had gone down there in a while. So, I came down to one part and cast, fish, fish is off, but it was on, just like pulling them in. And my dad was fishing in a waterfall as well, and he was getting a bunch as well. And so it was just like great. And we caught a bunch of fish, and I think we filleted them, and then, we were carrying them in our fishing rods. And we were like, okay, we got to head back to camp because it's getting dark. That's when the animals start coming out. And, being human, we were like, let's take a shortcut. So we had taken a big, big turn, and we were like, what if we just cut across the hill and cut off a lot of the distance and just head straight back to camp? So we tried to do that, and we're walking through this giant heather, which you probably haven't seen giant heather, but if you know what a little heather bush is, it's that, but 30 feet tall and just all around you. It's really wacky. I don't even know how it exists, but it does. And so we're walking through that, very marshy. There's, bamboo higher up on the slopes above us. And all of a sudden, I look up, and between all the, sticks of giant heather, all I see is, this outline of ears, 10 feet up. They're just, these brown ears. And then my eyes start to, recognize it for what it is. I'm like, Dad, it's an elephant. And so we're running away. We run down off the hill. We split up. I think Lincoln, my younger brother, I think he tripped because there was a branch around his head that he ducked under that, but there was also a branch around his feet, and so he tripped, but I think he's okay. I was just trying to survive at that point. So we run away from the elephant. It sort of saunters off. It was like a big bull, had massive tusks. And so we're like, okay, we can't really go this way. There's obviously too much wildlife over here. It's too dangerous. So we try to cut back to the stream, and all of a sudden my dad just stops. And he's not moving. And I'm waiting quietly. I'm like, is he going to say something? And he's like, we can't go this way. And I'm like, why? And he's like, well, that patch of what I thought was dirt 70 yards away was another elephant. And so we're blocked from going back to the river. And I think he saw another one as well. So we're like, okay, we can't go that way. We got to cut more into the brush and get away from the river because I guess that's where the elephants are. So we're going, and, we get our hopes up. We're like, okay, I think we're going to make it. And all of a sudden, again, I told you before, I don't know what happened first, but in the cartoons when the branches are rattling and the elephant's charging and the ears are flapping and the trumpet is blaring, all this stuff coming straight at us. All of a sudden, my dad, starts running. I start running. We all start running, and this elephant is just mad, and it's coming right at us at 20 feet away. Trees are falling over. They're just down like twigs. Little toothpicks. And so we're running. I'm looking back to my dad after running for a little bit. Are we still running? And he's like, yeah. And I look back, and it's still behind us. And it's just all a rush. You can't really take it all in. And so I cut off to the right to try and get into the brush and maybe hide myself. Well, a little bit later, I look back, and I'm like, I don't know where my dad and my brother are. I've lost them. And I'm in this maze of brush, and you can't really see anything. You're just bushwhacking. I'm trying to keep my rod and the hooks on the rod and the fish from getting like.
I forgot that you would
Yeah,
even be holding
this whole time I'm holding my fish. I haven't lost them yet. My brothers haven't lost. My brother hasn't lost his fish. My dad hasn't lost her fish. So we still have our fish. That's good. We still have our rods, and I'm trying to keep it out of the brush, and I'm afraid that I'm just gonna spring onto a buffalo and just get gored.
Yeah.
Like you can't see what's around the corner. Eventually, I hear my brother's voice in the distance, and so I was afraid to shout out to them because I was like, some animal's going to hear me and just come get me or something, Slightly irrational fear, but I was afraid, so.
Well, and you're being chased. Like,
That
there's
too,
a lot of
that too. Eventually, I hear his voice, and he's crawling out to me, so I come and we find each other, and we just sort of like, okay, got to reassess, like, what do we do? I think we had already prayed, but we prayed again at that point. And so we're like, okay, let's just, try again. And we keep going, and we see in front of us, there's like the grass had just been like tossed over, and like there's perfect elephant tracks, and the grass was like coming up too. So we had like just missed another elephant.
That's wild.
And we were like, this is crazy. And then of course my dad has to say, I think we're fine now, because we were getting out of the heavier stuff. He says, I think we're fine. The only thing we have to worry about is a buffalo.
And that's just not what you say in that moment.
No. So we're walking, and now we're in that thick grass, that high grass, and there's a hedge to my left, about maybe like 30 feet long, dark hedge, and I don't know what it was, but there's something that felt bad about that bush. I knew something was gonna happen. I'm looking, and as we're walking, suddenly around the corner of the hedge, I just see this black horn like sticking out, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, Dad, there's a buffalo. And he runs to the right, and I think he tripped because this grass is impossible to run on. My brother Lincoln ran back the way we came. I saw the hedge on the left, and I saw the buffalo, and I was like, he's going to come charging out at us. So I ran along the hedge, and all of a sudden the buffalo has come right out in front of me, like 10 feet away. So I pivoted really fast.
Still fish in hand?
Yep, all this in hand. You're right. It's probably the fastest pivot of my life. And I went the other direction, and the buffalo thankfully was scared of us and went off. And so eventually we made it back to the campsite. And then we realized, actually, as we get to the campsite and we sort of sit down, we're just like, okay. Keep in mind, this entire time I actually thought I was going to die.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I was in my head thinking like, okay, goodbye RVA, goodbye my friends. The main thing I was thinking about is this is going to be really hard for my mom, because she's with my younger brother, Caden, and her husband and her two older sons are just not coming back. I was like, okay, I'm going to heaven. Here it is. Thankfully, we survived. But we get back, and we're telling my mom this story and just trying to like keep it all contained. And she said that morning she had been praying for her husband. She's been praying for her husband since she was 16. She has this little booklet, and each day she prays something for her husband. For that day, it had been for his physical protection. So, of course, God just being cool like he is.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so crazy story.
That's really neat. Okay, so we're going to pivot a little bit. I don't even know how to, like, go anywhere else with that. But obviously there were physical struggles there. Were there any other struggles you faced during your time? And what did that kind of look like?
That was a good pivot. Yeah, of course, there are struggles that come with the missionary or similar to missionary life. I think probably the bigger one would be just losing friends. It seems like every year or every couple years I'd lose one of my very good friends, one of my best friends, and they would have to leave. It's just a place of very high transition. So losing friends because of high transition, but also for myself having to move, like we'd stay 4 years in Kenya, we'd come for a year to the U.S. On home assignment or furlough. And of course, those transitions were not always entirely easy. I remember crying myself to sleep, even though I had friends at the public school in America, even though, my life was pretty good. I just missed Kenya. I missed my friends back home. So that was, of course, hard. And I remember coming home every day after school and being like, Mom, what does this word mean? Mom, what does this word mean? And, I'd be slowly cultured to the world. Yeah, I'm still very uncultured, but that's okay.
To America.
To America, yeah. Exactly. So, yeah, I know I would come home and ask her all these questions. We'd always make chai and just sit together, and that was a great moment for sure. She'd make me a snack. Basically, I don't know when it started, but at a very young age, as soon as I came home from school, I'd make chai, which is a very popular drink in Kenya. Because of the British influence, everyone in Kenya drinks chai. They drink it with a lot of milk and sugar. And so, yeah, I'm slightly addicted to chai. And so I'd always have that after school just to relax and reset, take a break before starting my schoolwork or going to hang out with people. And I'd often invite my friends over, and like my mom would bake us chocolate chip cookies or something. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Can you also share a little bit how growing up as a missionary kid affected your journey with God? So either the really good things, really bad things.
Mm-hmm.
How did that all affect you coming to know him?
For sure. I think part of that is things that I'm still like figuring out now as I'm exposed to like other things in the U.S., other beliefs, trying to figure out like, what do I believe? What is my denomination? All this stuff. Because at RVA, the staff members come from very diverse backgrounds, from very different places. They have very different beliefs, but it's not accentuated in the way that it is here, I think, of like, oh, what denomination are you? There seems to be slightly more both loyalty and division because of the denominations. And so, yeah, I would never have like known like, oh, this person was that denomination. I'm still trying to figure out like what are the beliefs and things that people hold to within those different, facets. But yeah, I'd say generally it helped me a lot. The school itself, I mean, it's a school for missionary kids. It's very Christian. There wasn't any pressure, though, from my parents or from the school to, be a certain way, to be Christian, which is great. And, yeah, just really good community. Lots of events throughout the week or on the weekend to just, I think, to really pour into that and, yeah, get the most out of that and just have that fellowship and that community with each other, with people in the school. And yeah, the staff, of course, I mean, super, super awesome. I'd say, like, sort of similar to Spring Arbor, I'd say a lot of the staff member, the faculty here, I think they even go through an interview with Brent, the president, of like, hey, where do you stand with your faith? And if they're not Christian, I don't think they make it, is the best of my understanding of what Brent was telling us earlier. But yeah, sort of similar to that, like people are there because they want to, and so that automatically creates a environment and atmosphere that's, I think, just more intentional in that manner.
Yeah, for sure. Can you share with us your favorite memory of growing up?
I looked at this question when you gave it to me and I was like, man, this is tough. But I would say probably just the elementary, or I'm going to say the Titchy days. Titchy is a word that probably no one knows. It means elementary. Titchy SWAT.
Okay.
So TITCHIESWOT. Titchy SWAT is the British term, I guess, for elementary school. And so that was the name of my elementary school at RVA. And those days were a lot of fun, for sure. Don't have all the homework. Don't have, a lot of the drama. I think the funnest part of that was the football. We played a obscene amount of football in Titchy. I'd get up, have breakfast, do my chores, and then I'd try and get to school as early as possible so that I could play football with people. Then the bell would ring and we'd have to go to class. Then we'd have recess and everyone would go and play football. And then the bell would ring, we'd go to class. And then we'd have lunch, try and scarf it down and go play football. It got very competitive sometimes. There was, some fights, of course, but it was, for the most part, very fun. And everyone was very good, so it was good competition. And then, of course, once school ended, we might be playing football.
Yep.
and then dinner, and then after dinner we'd probably play some football. So yeah, a lot of football, and that was always very fun. Just like a constant thing to do with people, just a way to build super cool friendships and also, build our passions and stuff like that. So yeah.
That's sweet. All right. If there was one piece of advice or something that God has taught you that you want to leave with the listeners, what would it be?
This was the other hard question.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I really enjoy hard questions. It's
Hardest
good.
questions for last.
Yeah. I'd say I'm just going to share like something that's been standing out to me recently. I was looking at, I think it's 1 Corinthians 6, 19 through 20, where Paul is like, guys, don't you know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit? And he says it earlier in the book. He likes to do that where he's like, guys, don't you know this? But
I've been telling you.
yeah, come on. Don't you know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit that is in you, whom you have received from God? And then it says, and this is the part that's really been standing out to me, you are not your own, you're bought at a price. And it says, honor God with your bodies. Now, the chapter 6 is in regards to like sexual immorality, but just that point about like, you're not your own, you're bought at a price. I mean, this is countercultural wherever you are, I think especially in the Western mindset, but I live every day as if my life is my own. I make all my decisions based as if my life is my own. And of course, like very self-centered. But now that for those of you that are listening that are Christians, your life is not your own anymore. You're bought at a price, and that price is Christ's blood, right? His death. And so you can't go living as if, it's your own. And I think that's just like a really hard thing to hear maybe, or like a shocking thing to hear. I think especially in the Western mindset where it's like much more like time task oriented, individualistic compared to maybe Africa, which is much more relational, communal, familial. So just that's been really standing out to me recently. And just like, what does that mean that my life is not my own? And what things am I doing where I'm like, oh, I'm doing it for me, it's my own, but really it's not.
Yeah, for sure. Were you a missionary kid or something? It sounds like you know your stuff.
Well,
no, I'm just kidding.
I've been, doing my own study. So, yeah.
All right. Well, how can the students at SAU get connected to you? So
probably the easiest way is just come to Chai Time.
Yeah, there we go.
If you haven't heard about Chai Time, it's basically 3 days a week where I make chai from Kenya. I add in all the spices. I have run out of the chai that I brought from Kenya, but I can still buy the same stuff on Amazon, so we're fine.
There we go.
And I initially started with a very small teapot that I would use to go hiking, camping in Kenya. Then, lots of people decided that chai time was cool and started coming, and now I can't use that little teapot. I upgraded to a bigger pot. And recently we've been having tons of people, so I have an even bigger pot, and I just make a bunch of chai. And my mom recently has been baking tons of food, so we have food. And, of course, people love food. We bring a bunch of food, and we just fellowship. And, it's Mondays and Fridays at 4 and Wednesdays right after chapel. Mondays we've started studying Ephesians, so that's been super awesome. And just a way for people to, as I did after school every day, relax, reset, have fellowship with each other, with fellow believers, or just, other people, hang out, and just, rest.
That's awesome. All right. Well, you heard him, folks. Go to Chai Time. Well, thank you so much, Brennan, for your time and for sharing your story. It's been an honor to chat with you.
Thank you.